Welcome to Courageous Conversations with Dr. Christina. This is Moving Forward Monday, a space for honest dialogue, real life, and healing conversations that help us move forward with intention. This podcast is audio only by design, so you can listen without distraction and receive what you need at your own pace. Let's get into today's courageous conversation. Before we begin, I want to create a safe listening space. This podcast discusses real-life experiences related to trauma, healing, and growth. Nothing shared here is meant to re-traumatize or overwhelm you. You are always in control of how you listen. You can pause, skip, or step away at any time. This podcast is not a substitute for therapy or professional support, but it is a space for honesty, reflection, and courage. If at any point something feels heavy, please take care of yourself in whatever way you need. You are not weak for needing support, and you are not alone.
Hello, welcome. This is the beginning, and I don't take that lightly. This space is being created with intention, with honesty, with the understanding that some conversations don't always have a place to be said out loud. And today, we're starting with one of those conversations. I didn't want to begin this with something surface level. I didn't want to ease into this with something that just sounds good. I wanted to start with something real, something honest, something that maybe a lot of people carry but don't always have the words for. So today, we're talking about something that stays with people long after the moment has passed. We're talking about when loss comes too early. Before we go any further, I want you to take a breath, not a forced breath, not a dramatic inhale like you're trying to reset yourself, just a steady, natural breath. You don't have to brace yourself for this conversation. You don't have to prepare emotionally. You don't have to say, let me get ready for this. No, I just want you to listen. Let this meet you exactly where you are. Some of us are still carrying something because we never gave ourselves permission to admit it hurt. Not because we didn't feel it, but because we didn't have space to feel it. Especially when the loss happened early. Because when loss happens in childhood, you don't sit down and process it. You don't say, let me take time to understand what I'm feeling. You don't even have language for it. You don't have emotional tools for it. And you don't always have permission for it. So instead, we adjust, we adapt, and we survive. And I want to stay there for a moment because that matters. We survive. And survival can look really good on the outside. It can look like strength. It can look like maturity. It can look like they're handling this so well. But underneath that, your system is doing whatever it needs to do to keep going. When something happens early, your mind doesn't label it as trauma. Your body, it doesn't say, this needs to be processed later. Your system says, what do I need to do right now to function? So you function. You go back to school. You sit in your classrooms. You answer questions. You show up. You engage. You look okay. And people, they begin to believe you're okay. But something underneath has shifted. And sometimes no one even comes back to check on that shift. No one slows down long enough to ask, what changed for you? What did that do to you? How are you really feeling? So you just keep moving. And over time, that way of moving becomes who you think you are. We live in a world where parents are described as our protectors, our providers, our anchors. They shape how we understand safety. They shape how we understand love. They shape how we understand consistency. So when you lose a parent early, you don't just lose a person. You lose safety. You lose structure. You lose guidance. You lose covering. You lose the version of life that was supposed to help you feel secure. And even if people are still around you, something about your sense of safety has changed. And here's what people don't always explain. When loss happens early, there usually isn't space to grieve. There's space to function. There's even space to keep going. There's space to be strong, but there's rarely space to fall apart. And if there is space, it doesn't last long because life continues. Expectations continues. responsibility continues. So you learn how to carry something you never had the chance to set down. I want to share something with you. Not as a lesson, just as my truth. I lost my mother when I was 13 years old. And at 13, you don't have the language for grief. You don't sit there and think, this is going to affect me later. You don't think, this is going to shape how I connect to people. You don't think, this is going to impact how safe I feel in the world. You just adjust. Right? I went back to school. I sat in my classrooms. I responded to people when they spoke to me. Because I did what was expected of me. I look normal on the outside. But internally, something foundational has shifted. And if I'm honest, I didn't recognize how much that moment stayed with me until I got older. Until I started noticing patterns. And until I started paying attention to how I showed up. How I handled connections. How I responded to emotions. How I carried responsibility. How I stayed strong even when I didn't need to. And it's because I learned how to survive. And survival felt like success. It felt like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It felt like, yeah, I'm okay. And people begin to affirm that. They begin to say, you're so strong. Girl, you're handling this so well. But no one explained that surviving something and healing from something are not the same. You can survive something and still carry it. You can survive something and still be shaped by it. You can survive something and still have parts of you that never got the chance to process it. And when loss is sudden or traumatic, your nervous system doesn't just grieve, it protects. It shifts into survival mode. So your emotions don't always come out the way people expect. You might not cry. You might not fall apart. You might become more focused, more responsible, more independent. And people will say, you're so mature. You're so strong. But what they're really seeing is adaptation. They're seeing your system adjust to instability. Because at 13, you don't have the tools to process something that big. So what happens is your life keeps moving forward. But your emotions don't always move with you. So you grow up faster than your emotions can keep up with. And that gap, that space between how you function and how you actually feel, that gap doesn't just disappear. It stays quietly. So as a child, you become independent early. You stop expecting help. You learn not to need too much. You become the one who handles things. You become the one who doesn't ask for much. You become the one who keeps it together. And over time, you don't even ask questions. It just becomes who you are. Then you grow up. And as an adult, it shows up differently. You struggle to trust stability. You feel responsible for everything. You stay guarded. You anticipate loss. You prepare for things to go wrong, even when they haven't. You feel tired in a way that doesn't require rest. And then you begin to say things like, I've always been strong. I don't really need people. I handle things on my own. But underneath that strength is often unprocessed grief. And I want to say this gently. What you've been calling strength may have started as survival. Because when a child experiences early loss, especially the loss of a parent, a few things shift quietly. How safe the world feels, how predictable life feels, how secure connections feel, how much protection is expected. And if no one names those shifts, the child will grow up believing this is just who I am. I'm just independent. I just don't trust easily. I just don't like asking for help. But sometimes those aren't personality traits. They're adaptations. And adaptations is intelligent. It protected you. It helped you function. It helped you survive. But it is not the same as healing. Survival says keep going. Don't collapse. Hold it together. But healing says pause. Acknowledge. Feel what wasn't processed. Survival helps you move forward. Healing helps you understand what happened. And at age 13, survival was necessary. And there is no shame in that. None whatsoever. But adulthood, it gives you something you didn't have then, and that's a choice. You now have the ability to look back, not to relive it, but to understand it, to integrate it. Perfection says, that was a long time ago. You should be over it. But integration says, that happened early and it mattered. Perfection says, I handled it well. But integration says, I handled it the only way I knew how. Perfection says, I don't want to go backwards. But integration says, looking at it now gives me clarity. And clarity is not weakness. Clarity is maturity. Now, I want you to do something gently. Think about being 13. Just picture that version of you. What were you worried about? What mattered to you back then? Now place that version of you next to what you experienced. That was a lot. That was heavy. So offer compassion to that version of you. She did the best that she could. She adapted because she had to. She survived because there wasn't another option. And now, as an adult, you get to acknowledge it. You get to say, yes, that was heavy. That mattered. That affected me. And even now, I can see how God carried me in ways I didn't understand at the time, even when I was just surviving. I wasn't alone. And that may be true for you too. If this is resonating with you, just pause internally for a moment and notice what's coming up. No fixing, no analyzing, just noticing. Maybe it's sadness. Maybe it's numbness. Or maybe it's something you can't quite name. But all of it is valid. All of it is information. I want to leave you with something to sit with this week. Not something to answer right now. Just something to gently hold. What did I learn about life, about safety, about love, because of the loss I experienced early? Did I learn that things can disappear suddenly? Did I learn that I have to take care of myself? Did I learn that strength feels safer than vulnerability? You don't have to answer today. Just let the question stay with you. And if you've been calling it strength, but deep down you know it was survival, there is a space now for something different. If no one has ever told you this before, what you experienced mattered. Even if you handled it well, even if you survived it, even if no one checked on you the way they should have, it still mattered. And you don't have to carry it the same way forever. This is the beginning. And I'm really glad you're here. And I'll meet you right back here next time.
Thank you for sitting in this conversation today. If you recognized yourself in this episode, know this: loneliness and grief does not mean you were too much. It often means you were carrying something heavy without enough room to process it. As we continue this season, we're not reopening wounds. We're understanding patterns. Be gentle with yourself. Keep choosing courage and keep moving forward.